Hi, everyone. It's great to be with you. I'm Dr. Charles Elder. I'm a primary care internist by training, and I'm the executive director of the Fellowship in Integrative Medicine and Ayurveda for medical professionals at Maharishi International University. And tonight's webinar is about our fellowship program. The fellowship program is brand new and it's revolutionary. It is a program that trains physicians, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, and other licensed healthcare professionals in general integrated medicine with a special emphasis on Ayurveda. Ayurveda is the traditional healthcare system of India and is a very rich source of clinical skills. So tonight you'll sample our faculty and you'll sample a little bit of our curriculum, and you'll get a sense for what our fellowship is about and have a chance to meet our faculty and to ask questions. So the program itself is a 2-year distance learning program leading to an MS degree from MIU. And as I mentioned, it's really focused on practical clinical skills. The other thing that's related to that point is that in our program, there is a big emphasis on self-care, because good self-care and good patient care are sort of the same thing. So we put a big emphasis on how we care for ourselves and how we evolve ourselves as clinicians and as people. So the topic of tonight's webinar is lifestyle medicine, which is a hot topic in general, and which in fact is the course that we are currently engaged in our fellowship. So we'll be sampling some Ayurvedic and modern knowledge related to chronobiology, diet, sleep, exercise, and the like. So what I'd like to do then is get started, and I'll introduce our first faculty speaker, Dr. Leslie Elder, who is a family medicine physician with many decades of experience as a Maharishi Ayurveda physician.
Thank you, Dr. Elder. Thank you so much. I'm going to talk today about Ayurveda and digestion, and just first of all, just generally go over a little bit about what Ayurveda is. Ayurveda is the oldest continually practiced system of medicine, very ancient tradition, and it's the traditional healthcare system of India. The word Ayurveda means knowledge of the lifespan. So we don't just look at a person we just don't look at how a person happens to be feeling at a certain moment in time. Instead, we want to really know how someone should live so that they can remain healthy for their entire lifetime. According to Ayurveda, health is a state of balance, and disease is a state of imbalance of 3 fundamental psychometabolic or physiologic principles called doshas. The doshas are Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So what are these doshas? First slide, please. Here we see the 3 doshas. This is a cycle of the doshas we're looking at. It's actually like a calendar, a clock, really, clock. So we see Pitta dosha at the top, and then we see Vata dosha, the blue portion right there, and then Kapha dosha. So Vata dosha, we see in blue, this is the dosha that governs all movement in the mind, body, and spirit. It's also movement. It's movement in mind, body, and spirit, and also in nature. So it governs the movement of thoughts through the mind, movement of food through digestive tract, and also also the movement of the blood through your vessels. All the movement in the body is governed by Vata. And in nature, Vata dosha is symbolized by the wind. Its qualities are cold, moving, light, airy, rough, and dry. Pitta dosha up on top, the orange section, it governs digestion, metabolism, and transformation. The whole process of eating something and transforming it into nutrients is governed by pitta. And in nature, the qualities of pitta are represented by fire or the sun, and its qualities are hot, sharp, moist, sour, and intense. Kapha, we see that in green, governs the physical structure and lubrication of the mind, body, and spirit. Your tissues, your organs, your bones, and your joints, these are all governed by kapha. Kapha is symbolized in nature as water and earth. And kapha's qualities are cool, heavy, sweet, steady, soft, and slow. End of slide 1. You can take that down now. So in Ayurveda, the cycle of the year is described according to the doshas, with summer being the pitta season, winter is the vata season, and spring is kapha season. We also have a lifetime cycle of the doshas. Childhood and youth are considered to be kapha time of life. Midlife is pitta time of life. And the last part of life is vata time of life. In the same way, there's a daily cycle of the doshas. A daily cycle of the doshas. We have the same knowledge of this cycle in Western science, in the concept of the circadian rhythm, a rhythm that's initiated by cycles of light and dark. Slide 2, please. So here we have a clock that shows the daily cycles of the doshas. It's like the other clock with the time written in. And we see here that at the top of the clock, the orange section, this is the pitta time of the day. This is, we see here that both the 10 to 2 is the pitta time of the day. That can be 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And also 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. are pitta times of the cycle, when pitta qualities predominate in the body and in the environment. And the qualities of this cycle I mentioned are the pitta qualities of they're hot, sharp, intense, moist, and sour. In the vata, we see the vata section again is blue. And so the vata time of the day is 2 to 6. That can be 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the afternoon and early evening. It also can be 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the early morning. These are vata times of the day when vata qualities predominate in the body and in the environment. And the qualities of this period is cold, moving, light, and dry. Over in the green section, we have the kapha time of the day. And this is both 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. These are the kapha times of the cycle when kapha qualities predominate. And like I said before, the kapha qualities are cool, heavy, and slow. So each of these blocks that you see are 4 hours long. So 4 hours, 4 hours, 4 hours, 4 hours in each of these doshas. And this lasts for 12 hours, and then it repeats again. So that 12 hours times 2 equals 24 hours. So we covered the whole cycle of the day, 24 hours. Okay, we can stop slide 2 now. So with this framework in mind, and thinking about the qualities of each of the doshas, we can now construct an ideal daily routine. We call in Sanskrit routine, we say routine is dinacharya. And dinacharya is an extremely important concept in Ayurveda. Din means day, and charya means routine, dinacharya. So optimally, we construct our daily routine, our dinacharya, so that this natural cycle of the doshas works for us rather than against us. And this way, we can make sure that we're paddling our canoes with the current of nature, rather than struggling to paddle upstream against the current. In Ayurveda, we always want to go with the flow of nature. So now we're going to go through the cycle of the doshas, focusing on digestion. And focusing on, mostly just focusing on digestion. So the Pitta cycle, let's put up the third slide just for a little bit here so we can just look at it. So we see here a little bit more complex cycle of the doshas with the Pitta, Vata, Kapha, Pitta, Vata, Kapha kind of going in through the day to the night cycle. And we see that we go around the clock twice to reach the full 24 hours of the day. Okay, you could take that slide down. So in the Pitta time of the day, it's 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. This is when the sun is at its strongest in the sky. This is the time when Pitta dosha is predominant in our body. Our body reflects what's happening in nature. Sun is highest, so our digestion is highest. Pitta is highest. Pitta governs digestion. So this is the time when we need to eat our main meal. Optimal time to eat the main meal is at noon. The biggest mistake that people make is to skip lunch or to not really eat an adequate lunch, just kind of skimp on it. This is the time of the day where really heavy, satisfying proteins like cheese, large beans like black beans, tofu, and meats are best eaten. They're best eaten at this time since they require our digestive fire, our Agni, to be at its strongest in order to the food to be completely digested. This is really the only time of the day when you can digest a large meal properly. So after we go through, we're at 2 p.m. and we're going into the Vata cycle. And that is a Vata cycle of the day from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. This is the afternoon. And even if you had a big lunch, depending on the work you're doing, depending on your body type, you might need a snack. You might start to feel a little low on gas in the late afternoon, say around 3. And this is really the best time to have a snack. Best type of snack is maybe some fruit, piece of fruit, if you're hungry, a handful of nuts. Some people are a little hungrier, and can have, some people might need a little bit something more, but please avoid grazing. It's good to just have a snack and be done with it. It's good to have 3 hours of time between meals so that the food from the first meal is digested, and then you can have a snack and then wait for, a few hours before you have dinner. Because if you're doing this grazing or snacking, constant snacking, you can really throw off your digestion. And when that happens, you can get toxins that build up. Toxins in Ayurveda are called ama. And you do not want to have ama because ama is really the root cause of disease. Ama is the byproducts of improper digestion. Okay, so we've gone through that afternoon cycle and we're now in Kapha cycle, which is 6 p.m., the evening Kapha cycle. And this is 6 p.m. till 10 p.m. Since Kapha is heavy and slow, our digestion is also slowing down. We're in the Kapha cycle, our digestion is slowing down, we're heading towards sleep. This is not the time to have a heavy meal with lots of heavy protein. Any big meal we eat really can't be properly digested during this time. If you do eat a big meal, some people will have gas, indigestion, and it can cause difficulty sleeping for a lot of people. And in fact, this is one of the causes of insomnia, is just eating a bit too big of a dinner. A large meal at night can also produce ama. And that's something we really want to avoid. We want to have, we don't want to burden our digestion so much at that time of the evening. So for the evening meal, it's best to favor soups and stews and cooked vegetables, cooked grains, or some people actually opt for a breakfast type meal. A glass of hot milk with a little spice in it, or a bag of herbal tea, warm milk, cooked cereal with warm milk. Maybe you can cook the cereal with some raisins, have some toast with it. But these kinds of foods are just easier to digest. The thing is that you don't really want to have heavy proteins at this time of the day. So cheese, yogurt, meats, and fish should be avoided for the most part. Now, if that just sounds too crazy to you and it's really not doable, I would advise just decreasing the amount of these heavy proteins and thinking of them more like condiments. You can mix them a small amount with a cooked grain or with some cooked vegetables, and eating just a small amount, and you might start to feel eventually that really maybe you don't even need those heavy proteins as you get more adjusted to the change. So the next cycle is after your the later night, 10 p.m. and then 2 to 2 a.m. and that is the second pitta cycle. That's the evening pitta cycle. And just like the daytime pitta cycle, it's a metabolic cycle. Pitta, governs metabolism. And so, but this is not a cycle where we're digesting, we don't want to be digesting a lot of food during this cycle. It's the nighttime cycle. This is a time when we really need to be sleeping, and this is when our cleanup crew comes in and really takes care of all the byproducts of our digestion to kind of clear the slate in preparation for the next day. We don't want to have a lot of undigested food around at this time. So then next after that is the morning cycle, 2 a.m., early morning cycle, 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. It's the morning Vata cycle. Then we go into the Kapha morning cycle, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And optimally, we're out of bed. And but this is a Kapha cycle. So the digestive fire during Kapha time is still relatively low. Remember that Kapha is kind of a slow, heavy time of the day. Depending on our body type and the work we do, we might not be hungry for breakfast, really. But it's good to have something, maybe a cup, if only a cup of herbal tea or hot milk with a pinch of spice. And others might want to have a more nourishing breakfast. If you're going to go out and, plow a field or do some heavy work, or you're going to really have a long morning in the office, you might want to have a more nourishing breakfast, like cooked cereal with some raisins or, some milk or toast. So it just depends on your body type. So it's just one thing, it's really important not to overeat at breakfast, since that can cause you to not be hungry when lunch comes around. So as we learned earlier, just remember, lunch is the main meal of the day, and it should be the main meal of the day. And I'm just going to quickly go through the 4 main mistakes that people didn't make. I already said lunch. The biggest mistake is not making lunch the main meal of the day. The second mistake that most common mistake people make is to make dinner too heavy of a meal. The third is grazing and snacking for a large part of the day. And the fourth, I would say, is breakfast being too heavy, so they're not hungry for lunch. So, and in this fellowship program, we are going to tell you how to accomplish this yourself in your own life, and to teach your patients how to make lunch the main meal of the day, and how you actually can practically do all of this. So thank you. And now Dr. Elder will talk about some of the Western studies and modern science that support some of these Ayurvedic principles we're discussing.
Thank you, Dr. Leslie. As is so often the case, the Vedic science and the modern science line up. So we know that gut motility is better during the day than in the evening. We know that insulin levels are higher during the day than in the evening. We know that saliva production is higher during the day than in the evening. If you give a meal to a person at midday, or you give them the same meal at night, blood sugars will go higher at night. Same person, same meal. If the meal is at night, the blood sugars will go higher. If under experimental conditions, people have taken participants and exposed them to either bright light or to dim light, and those exposed to bright light show improved carbohydrate absorption and gut motility. Cross-sectional epidemiologic studies have shown that people who eat heavier at night are at increased risk for heart disease, stroke, cardiovascular morbidity. A recent study published in Cell Metabolism showed that late night eating increases wake time hunger. Late night eating increases your hunger the following morning and decreases 24-hour serum leptin levels, leptin being the satiety hormone. Now, I'd like to just show you one other study that was published in the Annals of Internal Medicine this past summer. So this is a very interesting slide. It's a weight management study. And so you can see there are 3 groups, and the x-axis is study month. And so we're looking at weight. Okay, so the lines are weight, and at the top we see a gray line, and this is the control group. And then there were 2 interventions. There was a time-restricted eating group, indicated by the orange, and there was a caloric restriction group, indicated by the blue. And we can see that both experimental groups lost weight and maintained the weight loss. There was no statistically significant difference between the two. So in other words, you can tell people, what we usually tell people to lose weight, go on a diet, less calories, or you can tell people only eat between noon and 8 and eat as much as you want without caloric restriction. And that group did fundamentally just as well as the caloric restriction group. Again, suggesting that digestion is strongest in the middle of the day, and that when you eat is as important as what you eat. Okay, let's move on. And I'd next like to introduce our colleague, Dr. Sankari Wegman. Dr. Wegman is the Assistant Director of the Fellowship. She has a doctoral degree in Integrative Medicine education and very rich experience as a Transcendental Meditation teacher and many decades of experience in the Ayurvedic clinic. Dr. Wegman.
Thank you so much, Dr. Charles, and welcome everyone. It's an honor and a pleasure to be able to speak with you today about this understanding of lifestyle medicine from the perspective of Ayurveda. So this concept of the Ayurvedic daily routine that Dr. Leslie was talking about is something that allows us to align with the natural rhythms of the day, of the night, of the seasons. And so just by these simple things of, knowing when to wake up, when to eat, when to have the main meal, when to exercise, when to go to sleep, just having that at consistent times during the day, we're able to synchronize this internal biological clock with our external environment. So this alignment really helps us to optimize the natural functions of the body, and it allows us to have greater efficiency in all of our activities. And it really shows that it's not just what we're doing, but also when we are doing these different activities. In terms of sleep, Ayurveda considers sleep as one of the pillars of health. It's one of the most important foundations of health and wellness. And its role is more than just getting some rest. It is essential for rejuvenation, for repair, for proper nourishment. And the Ayurvedic texts talk about how sleep is also essential for creativity, for happiness, strength, emotional balance, and overall vitality. So let's look a little bit more about sleep from the Ayurvedic perspective and when in the daily routine it is emphasized. There's an Ayurvedic principle, well, two. One is that the day starts the night before. And so what that means is if you just even check in with yourself as to how your day was today, how are you feeling today? How was the emotional, different areas that you were experiencing? How was your strength, your energy levels? It can also then reflect back to how did you sleep last night? How was the quality of your sleep? And is there a connection that you have found with when you get a good quality of sleep, how you feel during the next day. So this principle from Ayurveda is that the day starts the night before. So really emphasizing having a good sleep routine. Another principle is that Ayurveda recommends to go to sleep in this kapha time of the day. So as Dr. Leslie was sharing about when this kapha time is, I will go ahead and share that screen. We see that this daily routine or this Ayurvedic dinacharya divides this 24-hour time of the day into these 6 4-hour segments. That's that repeated value of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So Kapha time is from 6 to 10 in the morning and 6 to 10 in the evening. And Kapha, as Dr. Leslie mentioned, is having more of the heavier principles of all the doshas. It's made up of earth and water, primarily earth. So it has more of those qualities of heaviness, of denseness, solidity, stability. And those are the qualities that we want in sleep. So Ayurveda recommends to go to sleep in that kapha time. The kapha time in the evening is, you can see from here, it's from 6 to 10 in the evening. So Ayurveda recommends to go to sleep in the kapha time. So what does that mean? So it's before 10 o'clock that we want to be, having that quality of sleep so that we're bringing those qualities of kapha, of heaviness, solidity, stability into our sleep. So this means that we want to, in order to go to sleep by that time, we have to be in bed also by that time. So it's not just, going to sleep right at 10 o'clock or getting into bed at 10 o'clock. Already, as Dr. Leslie had mentioned, we're starting to slow down in this kapha period. So after having that light dinner, it's good to have activities that are more soothing, that are not really stimulating or revving up our nervous system, but are helping soothe our nervous system. So, we can have a nice evening stroll, just light activity. And then we want to start dimming the lights and preparing the physiology, preparing mind and body for sleep. So even around 9 o'clock, we want to start getting ready for bed, even a little bit earlier if that's possible. And we can dim the lights, we can put the phone in another room and just start getting ready for bed. This allows the body, it signals the body, and it's, to be in that value of kapha and bring those qualities with us into sleep. You might have had the experience that perhaps at 9 o'clock or 9:15, 9:30, that you do feel a little bit tired, like, oh yeah, it's time for bed or it's getting a little bit late. And maybe there's one more thing you want to do. Maybe just check one more email, send one more text. I'll just clean up the counter, do these dishes. And then maybe all of a sudden you look at the time and it's 11:30 or, 12:30. And you're like, what happened in that period? So after 10 o'clock, we go into this kapha time of sleep. So pitta time. Pitta time is from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. And pitta is more that energy principle. So that, value of sleepiness, that heaviness of kapha, when we kind of cross over 10, we might have a second wind, have that energy level. But that energy of pitta at night is more for rejuvenation. It's more for repair. It's more at that deep level, providing rest and repair for the whole physiology. And as Dr. Leslie had stated so beautifully, that this is the time that the cleanup crew comes in to clean everything up. So we want to really allow for that repair principle of the physiology to have that time during sleep. So that value is enlivened so that when we wake up, we're waking up with clarity, we're waking up with freshness, with vitality. And this is another principle that Ayurveda mentions, that when we wake up is also important. So Ayurveda recommends to wake up towards the end of Vata period, which Vata is from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. So Ayurveda recommends waking up towards the end of this Vata period. And this Vata period, this Vata is the lightest dosha, made up of space and air. And when we are waking up in this time of Vata, we're bringing that quality of lightness into our day. We're bringing that quality of clarity, of subtlety, of creativity, enthusiasm into our day. And we wake up feeling very refreshed because we've had that deep, heavy quality of sleep, also with that value of repair, rejuvenation, nourishment to the physiology as well. What this allows for us to understand every day is we start to become really self-referral. We see how we're feeling and we realize, we can adjust a little bit with our sleep to allow us to wake up naturally feeling enthusiastic and excited for the day. You might have had the experience that if you wake up, say, in that kapha time period between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m., maybe there's some heaviness, some sluggishness. It's hard to get out of bed. There's more of that heavy quality in that kapha time in the morning that makes it kind of hard to get started. And so we might look to other things to help us, get started, maybe reach for some cup of coffee or things like that, just to help us get moving. That kapha time in the morning it's better not to wake up in this time. And it's a wonderful time to go to sleep in at night. So we can see that this whole understanding of Ayurveda with the sleep, cycles, it also helps to personalize different sleep issues. So perhaps there are people who are having difficulty falling asleep. This could come more under Vata dosha. So there's different things that we can do with diet, with routine, with lifestyle to help that. Maybe someone has trouble staying asleep, or maybe they fall asleep great, but they're waking up right at 2:15 in the morning every day. And so that could be related to Pitta dosha, or maybe they're having trouble waking up in the morning. It's hard just to get out of bed. That could be related more to Kapha dosha. So there's different ways to personalize how to come back into balance through diet, lifestyle, routine, through Ayurveda with this understanding. Another point that Ayurveda looks at is the role of exercise and the timing of exercise. Ayurveda recommends exercise for everyone. It's beneficial for all body types, for Vata, Pitta, and Kapha types. And in general, it's good for Vata types to have more of a lighter kind of exercise, maybe just some walking, very gentle. Because Vata is a very light dosha, it can easily get fatigued if too intense. For Pitta dosha, some moderate exercise might be beneficial, perhaps swimming, a little bit cooling activity like that. And for Kapha types, because it's more that heavier dosha, something a little bit more intense might be beneficial. So something a little bit more aerobic like that. So again, you can personalize the exercise. But in general, Ayurveda recommends when we do exercise is also important. So exercising in the morning is the most beneficial. It's the most ideal. And especially in this kapha time, kapha again is that heavy principle. So exercising during this time brings lightness, brings improved quality of digestion, metabolism, and also great clarity for the mind. It's wonderful for the emotions. So it's a great way to start the day. The Ayurvedic texts also talk about the importance of having a morning walk, in nature with the rising energy of the sun. So utilizing that value of the sun also in how we start our day also aids every different aspect of vitality, strength, nourishment to the whole wellness of the whole physiology. So this understanding really allows us to know, okay, let me, in the morning time, how I can structure my morning routine for optimal functions for mind and body. Exercising in the morning is ideal, and Ayurveda recommends that it's better not to exercise between 10 and 2, as this is the Pitta time that's more for digestion and metabolism, so we don't want to disrupt that activity there. So ideally, it's in the morning, and we also don't want to exercise too late in the evening, as this is something when we want to start slowing that metabolism down to help us go into sleep. So ideally in the morning, and we want to not have very late night exercises that can disturb our evening dinner as well as the quality of sleep. So in these different ways, we can then personalize our exercise recommendations. We can personalize our dietary recommendations. We can personalize the sleep recommendations depending on what different imbalances might be seen and how to come back into balance in a very natural, effortless way. And last point about the Ayurvedic daily routine is that it builds consistency, it builds regularity. So it's nothing that we have to think about. It's almost that the body is ready for that activity. We're hungry at the right times. We're sleepy right along with the cycles of nature. So we're almost effortlessly, without even thinking, just doing whatever it is that the body needs at that time. And this naturally, effortlessly brings us into greater vitality, clarity, and happiness. I'd like to now turn it over to Dr. Elder to talk about this perspective through the lens of modern science and modern research.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wegman. I'll share my screen, if you don't mind. This is a very interesting slide. So we talked before about the fact that there are epidemiologic data that show that people who eat late at night have higher risk for cardiovascular disease. The people who work the night shift live shorter lives. This is all well documented. And you can see here on the right side of the slide that the disruption of the circadian rhythm can lead to increase of coronary artery disease, cardiomyopathy, hypertension, stroke, renal vascular disease, and that some of the mechanisms can include thrombogenesis, atherosclerosis, inflammation, hemodynamic, and autonomic dysfunction. Now, at the root of this can be the innate disruption of the innate clock. We have in the hypothalamus, the suprachiasmatic nucleus is the central clock keeper, central timekeeper of the body. It keeps us on our 24-hour cycle and regulates the circadian rhythms. However, it has come to be understood recently that the peripheral organ systems also have circadian genes and circadian clocks. So one thing that can happen is if we're working shift work or we're doing the wrong thing at the wrong time on a consistent basis, is this can lead to clock gene mutations, which then lead to metabolic dysregulation and the consequences that we see as examples on the right side of the slide. The other thing that can happen is that these clocks can become out of sync with one another. So as mentioned, the suprachiasmatic nucleus takes this cue, is the central clock, and it takes its cues from the retina, from the sun. Other organ systems get their clues elsewhere. For example, the gut gets its clues from when we eat. So if we're persistently eating at the wrong time, the gut gets off schedule, and now you have one organ system off schedule from central command, and things can go haywire. So this is, there's a lot of literature on chronobiology. It's an evolving and very fascinating area. And I want to show you one other slide everything's connected, right? So we're talking about exercise, we're talking about sleep, we're talking about diet, and we've all had the experience, as Dr. Leslie mentioned, we eat too late at night, we can't sleep. As it turns out, if we exercise at the wrong time, that can make it harder to sleep. And these are data that were actually published several decades ago, but very interesting. And the slide shows the impact of exercise on the timing of sleep, and in particularly on the melatonin pulse. And so in this experiment, there were 3 groups. Subjects exercised in the morning, or in the one group, second group in the afternoon, and a second group and a third group at night. And then there's a control group. So the upper left is the control, and then you see the upper right, the morning, and then the afternoon and night. Okay, and then there are 2 lines in each graph. You see there is a light line with light dots, and that's the melatonin rhythm on the day before the participant exercised, and then the dark line is the melatonin rhythm on the day of physical exercise. And what you can see is that the person who exercised in the morning, the two lines closely track, but it's a little subtle, but in the bottom two graphs, you can see that dark line shifting to the right. In other words, exercising too late in the day heavily will cause your melatonin pulse to be delayed and make it harder to fall asleep. Very interesting. Okay, and we could go on for a long time, but what I'd like to do now is our fellowship director, Dr. Arti Prasad, is out of the country and couldn't join us, but she has a video message for you. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Arti Prasad from the University of Minnesota School of Medicine and Hennepin Health Systems.
My name is Arti Prasad, and I'm the Chief Strategic Development Officer at Hennepin Healthcare, a professor of medicine at University of Minnesota, and an adjunct faculty at Maharishi International University in the College of Integrative Medicine. And I am the director of this fellowship program. This fellowship in Integrative Medicine and Integrative Ayurveda is developed in collaboration with the University of Arizona Andrew Weil Center for Integrative Medicine. It is provisionally approved by the American Board of Integrative Medicine. The faculty of the University of Arizona Andrew Weil Center for Integrative Medicine have contributed their foundational fellowship curriculum called the FFC to the Masters in Ayurveda program at MIU. The FFC provides state-of-the-art knowledge in all the major domains of integrative medicine recommended by the American Board of Integrative Medicine, called the ABOIM. The Andrew Weil Center for Integrative Medicine has been teaching physicians and health professionals for 20 years in their fellowship programs. As we know, patients are increasingly demanding whole person and prevention-oriented healthcare without harmful side effects. During this program, you will gain knowledge and skills to optimize your clinical effectiveness while minimizing adverse effects of conventional medicine, while also improving your own well-being. You will learn to empower your patients and increase satisfaction through whole person care, utilizing best practices of modern integrative medicine and integrative Ayurveda. In the residential fellowship week, this is very important that you will actually enjoy making meaningful connections for the rest of your lives. I can speak from my own experience being in the Andrew Weil Center for Integrative Medicine Fellowship many years ago, that this training was one of the best training experiences of my life. I have built a lifelong and meaningful professional and personal connections through my fellowship. And these connections happened during the residential weeks of the fellowship. This was in addition to all the learning experiences, the workshops which were offered to the fellows. I hope you will consider this fellowship and enjoy it fully. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Prasad. And now I have the great pleasure of introducing Dr. Sonal Bhatia. Dr. Bhatia is an internist and is a senior executive at Pfizer New York and is one of our fellows this year. And Dr. Sonal will tell us a little bit about her experience.
Thank you very much, Dr. Elder. What a phenomenal webinar so far. And I have to share the why I really thought about taking this fellowship. So it all started as a physician. I struggled with us prescribing medicines, but there's so much more that we can give to the patients. And I didn't know what that more was. So that led me to my pursuit in pharmaceuticals, where we bring innovation medicines to patients and help solve for many diseases that currently exist, which is wonderful. And it's a great experience. However, there was something still within me that said, but what else? Why is there so much disease? Is there something we should be teaching our patients on how to prevent it? Or when they do have a disease, what more can they do to not go back to old habits and actually improve themselves? So that led me to looking for something around integrative, holistic medicine, But my grandfather was an Ayurvedic doctor back in India, and I knew that always. I just didn't know what that meant. And so as I was pursuing many options, I came across a fellowship program that had both integrated healthcare and Ayurveda. And not only that, it was a fellowship that allowed me to continue my day job, which was important to me, but learn along the side in a format that suited me to be able to learn at my pace, have webinars online with my peers, and have 2 weeks of clinic weeks, which I have to tell you, it's been 6 months since I started this fellowship. And while we've been learning a lot, the clinic week has been the most outstanding connectivity. Our peers, when we met each other, realizing that we all came in from a different why to the same goal, to take on this fellowship. We connected in ways that have allowed us to stay connected even beyond not being together in person. We help each other, we're learning from each other, and we're supporting each other through the fellowship. It is a commitment. It's a commitment because we're all working, we have daily lives, daily families, daily jobs. But it's a commitment that goes beyond, because the learnings that are stemming from this program are helping us in the future to be able to guide these patients to healthy mind, body, and soul connectivity. So what does that mean for me? For the last few months, I have transformed how I think about food, how I think about the gut and the gut health. We heard today from Dr. Leslie Elder, Dr. Charles Elder, also Dr. Sankari Wegman, on all the different components, and each one of them are so committed to us in every webinar that we're pursuing to teach us the little learnings, to give us the right types of modules that are building towards our integrated healthcare. Now, I wake up early. I am actually following the 24-hour pattern. I'm able to get up feeling super rested because I'm sleeping at the right time. I'm able to get up and go for a walk. I'm meditating in the morning. Shocking. I didn't think I would ever get to that. That's been my goal year after year. And now I utilize the technique taught to us so that I can meditate, calm my soul, connect back, and then do the things that I need for my body. And I'm starting to be more intuitive on what my body needs, when does it need it, and how do I align with what's required so that I can go to bed on time. My biggest meal is at lunch. Dr. Leslie Elder taught us a lot of phenomenal techniques on what to eat, how to eat it, and how to be creative and innovative with our meals so that we're eating our biggest meal at lunchtime that aligns with the solar system. It's been a tremendous learning. And guess what? It's only been 6 months. I can't wait to see what the rest of the 1.5 year brings about. But I have to say, it's the need to connect mind, body, and soul through this integrative holistic methodology and bring in those Ayurvedic learnings that have been there for ages and that we've forgotten. And we now have the ability to learn from our faculty who knows about it and can tell us not just do this as our ancestors told us, but also the why. It's the why that's going to help us to drive our patients to do the things that we are already doing. My peers are all working at it. We're all at different phases in our journey, and we're all motivating each other through channels that we've connected on. And the why is because we realize once we learn these tools, only then can we tell our patients, it's not something I read in my medical textbook or in my fellowship. It's because I have experienced it and therefore I know you can. And today I do it for myself. I do it for my family. I have my kids drinking spiced hot milk, warm milk in the evening. Thank you, Dr. Leslie Elder. But I also have my friends and community that are learning from me. And they're like, really? I didn't know that. So it's a learning opportunity for us. And then it's going to be a teaching opportunity for the rest of the community that we serve. So I highly recommend, and as you can tell, I am super excited about my role that I play in this fellowship. So thank you very much, and I'll pass it back to Dr. Elder.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bhatia. So our fellowship in a nutshell is a great experience. And as mentioned, 2 years, about 1,200 hours, approximately half the content Ayurveda and approximately half the content general integrated medicine. The Ayurvedic component of the curriculum comes from us at MIU. And as Dr. Prasad mentioned, we have a collaboration with the University of Arizona Center for Integrative Medicine, and we have licensed a portion of their curriculum for the general integrated medicine component of our fellowship. And so you can learn on your own at your own pace. It's about 10, 12 hours a week is the expectation, except 1 week each year and generally in the autumn on campus in Fairfield, Iowa at MIU. And every other Thursday night at exactly this time, a 90-minute live webinar with the faculty. And you'll learn about diet and daily routine and herbals, pulse diagnosis, 5 sense therapies. You'll learn the technique of Ayurvedic pulse diagnosis, and all of this in a very practical way so that you can step right back into your practice and use it. As mentioned, a big emphasis on self-care. So a major goal for you, we start the fellowship and you come out 2 years later, is that we ourselves become healthier and more blissful and more in tune and better people and healthier people. We practice on ourselves and on our family, and that's how we learn how to better help our patients. And finally, everybody who takes the fellowship gets an MS degree. The MDs and the DOs from North America are eligible to, after the fellowship, the fellowship is approved by the American Board of Integrative Medicine, and you can then be eligible to sit the certification exam offered by the ABOIM. So it's very excited, and we really encourage you to join us as fellows and to take the next step in your journey and in your career. So what we'll do now is we're going to open up for questions. Right before we do that, Kimia has a brief poll to have you fill out. If you don't mind, take a minute and just a minute and fill this out, and then we will open up for questions. Go ahead.
Yeah. Right. There was one question about the dates for the fall clinical week for 2024. The date of the clinical week will be November 4th through November 8th, which is Monday through Friday, November 4th through the 8th, 2024. And I can put that in the chat.
And there is in the chat a question about the accommodations for the clinical week. People stay at the Guest and Conference Center, typically at MIU, and the accommodations and meals are included as part of the tuition. Of course, transportation is not. Spouses can come with you. They generally would not attend the fellowship sessions, but they can accompany you to Iowa. And we do have a social event the Thursday night of the week, and the spouses are welcome to attend that.
Yeah. Hello, Dr. Elder. Yeah, it was definitely a wonderful presentation. And I want to know, what is the maximum strength of the class? Normally, like in the coming years, how many students do you allow per class?
This year's class has 15.
Yeah.
We are anticipating, our target is to have classes in the range of 20 to 25.
All right. Okay. Do we do anything like an in-service project or something like that during the course?
Yes, there is a capstone project which can take a variety of forms. It's anticipated to be about 100 hours worth of work over the course of the 2 years. And you can do any of a number of things. So some examples of things that people are doing include some people will do a literature review. One of our fellows who has family in Africa, and while he was visiting, he shadowed some traditional Nigerian healthcare practitioners and did a write-up on his experience. We have one of our fellows who is a neurologist is starting an interest group, a professional interest group in neurology in integrative medicine. And like that, some people are doing self-help projects where they're taking on certain Ayurvedic practices. They're doing their self-measurements pre and post like that. So there's a whole range of some people are doing small clinical trials and the like.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you.
The total cost of the 2-year program as of this year is $35,000 for the 2 years tuition total, $70,500 per year. That includes, as mentioned, the room and board for the 2 weeks in Iowa, and it also includes everyone in our program learns transcendental meditation, and it includes the cost of the TM instruction as well.
Thank you.
There is a question in the chat. Can we get advanced techniques in TM and or city certification during our course?
If I can just address that, Dr. Charles. That's a great question, Brooke. That's something that we can help coordinate for the clinical week, perhaps, for advanced techniques. But the cities are a little bit of a different kind of time. There's an in residence portion, and there is something that you can do at your local center. So there's 2 portions to that. The in residence, I don't think it would work right at the time of the clinicals, and it's its own thing. But advanced techniques, for sure, we can help coordinate somewhere during the clinical week.
Michelle.
Thank you. I've been asking a lot of questions. Sorry. I'm wondering, as someone who is working full time, I understand that it's self-paced and there's the live webinar to attend once a week. But what is the homework load like? Is it full of presentations? Is it a lot of paper writing? Can you guide me in that way, what to expect?
I'm happy to answer that question, just going through it. So I also work full time and have a full household of teenagers, 2 of them. So it is very busy. And the homework is really, we do modules on a weekly basis. And our faculty has been great to open up the module a bit earlier. So even though it starts on a Monday, they open it on Friday so we can get ahead over that weekend. And the modules are either writing up your experience on something you've learned. So it's usually brief, a couple of paragraphs, reading what your peers are writing and responding to it, and connecting with the Arizona Center, which we're linked to read a lot of the modules. Many of them are videos. And when they are videos, I tend to go for walks and listen to them. So I get kind of the walk and the video in. And then when I have to sit down and read, I do that. And then when I have to write up my experience, I write it up. And the write-ups are very brief. They're not long essays or papers. They're really experiences. And we take our pulses, so then we log what we're experiencing. So it's very doable, but it requires you to just carve out that time and be really on top of the work, because there are assignments due, and the due dates are in the platform. We use the Canvas platform, so the due dates are always there in advance for you to be able to keep ahead. I hope that answers your question.
Is there grades involved in these submissions? Do we have tests and exams?
Yes. Yeah. So every module has some sort of grading system, whether it's answering 10 questions or 15 questions after completing it. And some are pass or fail. Others are you have to get 10 out of 10 correct. Others are it's a 5 out of 5 if you've submitted your comments and responded to 2 of your peers at least. And I can tell you right now the peers are responding to each other a lot more than two. So it's really, it's become a community of sharing and hearing and responding. But there is a grading system because that is what's required to pass that module and move on to the next one. And I don't know if Dr. Elder, you want to add anything more to that.
It is pass-fail. So each course is pass-fail and like that. So so I just want to emphasize you're graded pass-fail. It's not intended to be intense that way. At the same time, as Dr. Sonal mentioned, it is an accredited master's degree program, so we do play by the rules.
In future, do you have any idea about how the program would help or get some kind of affiliation for PAs and NPs, like for example, for PAs with the NCCPA, something for it to get recognized? Do you have any plans of doing so?
So the program gives you an accredited master's degree. And then, that, which is a credential. Now, how you can practice with that as a PA with that master's degree, I think is going to vary by your circumstance and by your state. Now, the one thing I want to mention to you is that we have people practicing in all sorts of scenarios. And I myself practiced for 30 years at Kaiser Permanente, a big healthcare network on the West Coast. And where I worked, you can't just do whatever you want when you want. So you have to be able to present, to practice in a way that's acceptable to your practice environment and medical legal situation. A lot of what you're going to learn is evidence-based, and you'll be able to use really anywhere, or should be able to use anywhere in any circumstance. So, for example, we're learning about stress reduction. We're learning about diets. We're learning about exercise. We're learning about getting to bed by 10 o'clock. Things like that, which really can be integrated by, I think, in any healthcare setting by any healthcare practitioner. Sometimes when we're prescribing herbal supplements, it may be a little tricky depending upon your situation. But even then, nowadays, there's a lot of the Ayurvedic herbs, turmeric, ginger, ashwagandha. This is evidence-based. So
Right.
it's becoming easier. You know, in 30 years ago or 35 years ago, you couldn't do any of this stuff. If you told your patient to do acupuncture, you were considered a quack or whatever. Things have come a long way since 1990.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Last question. So because this practice, I realize I can incorporate it in what I'm currently doing, and my field is psychiatry.
Oh.
Is there guidance within the curriculum in maybe building a business, like the business side of it? Because you can't really bill, insurance for these types of things, although I realize you can maybe sneak in the content into something that's billable, but is that part of the curriculum?
There is a course, yes. We have a 1 week, each of our courses, we're in a block system. So we have a series of courses, one after the next for 2 years, ranging in length from 1 week to 7 weeks, depending on the course. And we do have a course on business and legal aspects of integrated medicine practice. Yes. As for CMEs, Category 2, certainly for physicians, we've used it. As far as Category 1 credit, a portion of the Arizona component of the curriculum is available for Category 1 credit, and it varies year by year based upon when they last updated their course like that. So Category 2 should be, yes? Category 1, some, not the whole 1,100 hours, 50 or 100 hours or something like that. Other questions?
Thank you. This was helpful.
So Meredith, 100 every 2 years, just mentioning that that's a guesstimate. I think that's about right. What type of courses are there?
I can share my screen of the academic schedule for this year, if that's helpful. This is a question that Brooke had asking what are the types of courses. So these dates are for not this year coming up. This is for 2023 to 2024, but it's just to give an idea of the structure. You can see that it's a 2-year program, and I can make it a little bit bigger. It might be a little bit hard to read, but you can see the types of courses in year 1. It's divided into the 2 semesters. There's half a summer as well. And you can see the year 1 is more foundational in its approach to integrative medicine as well as Ayurveda. And these are the hours or the number of weeks of the different modules or the different courses. And then this is year 2, where we start to look at the integrative approaches to the different systems of the physiology. And the final is, having a little bit for time for review and exam. And there's also research and scholarly activities that are included through all semesters, as well as the clinical webinars that are bi-weekly that are also included for credits, as well as you can see the yellow is that residential clinical week that's in each of the years. The dates will be different for the 2024 to 2026 period for the next fellowship, but that's approximately that structure.
Okay, now I'm going to show you our website, if you don't mind. I'm going to share the screen.
I'll also leave the link in the chat for anyone interested.
Thank you. Okay, here's our website. And so you can go to our website and learn more. The links is in the chat. And you can learn more about what we're doing. And you can see our faculty and our guest faculty and so on. It is very easy. The next class starts in August. It's very easy to apply. So you can go online and apply online. And the hardest thing about the application is that you do need a 250-word paragraph on why you're applying. And beyond that, it's about 15-minute application. The application fee is $20. So it's easy to apply. And then you'll need a copy of your license. Since to come into this program, one needs to be a licensed healthcare professional. Copy your license, and we'll need your transcript. Those 2 things, it's very easy. Other questions?
Dr. Wegman, there was a question around how many breaks there are in the program.
Yes, thank you. I put that in the chat as well. For we'll have in the course of 2 years, there will be 2 winter breaks. They're usually about 2.5-ish weeks. And then there'll be 2 spring breaks. They're usually a week each. And for the first year, there's half summer, so there'll be about a month off, usually from like approximately middle of July or July 20th, and then till about August 20th, approximately. From our clinical week, this last clinical week, there are some stories and posts on our Instagram page. So I don't know, Dr. Elder, if you could put that last slide where you can follow us on social media, but there's just a question about that clinical week. So you can, hop on if you're on Instagram. That's the last couple of posts are from the clinical week. So you can also look at that there. You can connect on these different ways through LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, YouTube with us. And, please, you can send an email as well. You'll see the email ID right there, cim@miu.edu. And it'll be CIM is just College of Integrative Medicine at MIU Marshall International University.edu. So it'd be great to be connected and to answer any questions that you have. We're all ready to be of support to you.
You can search us also on social media if you missed the QR code just by typing in FintMob. That's just the shorthand for the program. And I'm just going to put that in the chat. There you go, Dr. Wegman also did it. Thank you.
There's a question from Raphael, who is looking to start in the fall. We're excited to have you. And later in the spring, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, you should start receiving materials, getting your logged into the MIU system, and getting you ready for the summer start in August. Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, we can close. I want to thank everyone for coming. It's really a pleasure talking with all of you. And please go to our website. If you have questions, please email me. Any of us. It's easy to email us. The first initial, the last name at miu.edu will work. Well, I want to thank everyone for your time and for joining us. And as mentioned, please contact us with questions, and we'll look forward to hearing from you.